The chair notes that there's a quorum present, and let's do the flag salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Guys. Okay, now 2.0, additions or revisions to the agenda. I have a couple of these. I'm going to ask that we pull 4.1 and 4.2, the minutes from the consent, and just move them under old business as 5.6 and 5.7. There's just a few small things in there I wanted to make sure that we correct. Under new business 6.2, I'd like to add approved building codes letter to Wasco County. And then under 6.3, discuss PERS resolution. Any other additions, revisions to the agenda?
I do not have it.
That's good, okay.
Sherry, didn't you have one,
Do I?
the green lab stuff?
Do you want me to add the green lab? Or do you want to hold off
Yeah, I can just hold on. Yeah.
for now?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll add that in June. Okay, 3.0, public comments. Start with those. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and at other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair. Give your name and address and limit comments to 3 minutes. Is there anybody who wants to public comment? All right. Correspondence. We have got quite a few things. I just wanted to note, I'm not going to read this one because it's nice and thorough, but Gilliam County SWCD gave us an update on their grant from the 2018-2019 cycle. So this one that we're just starting to conclude. So anyway, I just wanted to note that that is in there. Let me see what else we've got here. We received a letter from the Building Codes Division that I think is significant enough, I'll at least read some of this into the record so people listening at home kind of know what's going on. But basically it's addressed to the court. It says, since February 2018, Oregon Building Codes Division has been providing building code services to the 4 counties, formerly serviced by Mid-Columbia Council of Governments, McCog. In a letter dated January 10th, 2018, the division notified Gilliam, Wheeler, and Sherman counties that the division would administer and enforce the building inspection program on behalf of the county, while the division investigated the county's inability to provide services due to the loss of the county service provider, which is McCog. Since that time, the division has provided services from a temporary office in the Dalles under that investigative notice. As you may be aware, Wasco County has confirmed its intent to provide local building code services through the hiring of local permit and inspection staff. As part of this transition, Wasco County will begin delivering local permit services through Wasco County staff beginning June 10th. The state will fully discontinue temporary investigative services to Wasco County when Wasco County resumes full service beginning July 1, 2019. The division wanted to make your county aware of some changes to the temporary services you currently receive from the state once the state ceases service to Wasco County. We feel it is important for the county to understand the expected service level so that the county can appropriately determine its next steps. June 10th, services being provided to Sherman, Wheeler, and Gilliam County under the temporary investigative notice will transfer to the division's permanent office in Pendleton. The e-permitting service will remain available, allowing contractors within your county to obtain many services online. Phone and in-person services will be conducted through staff in the state's permanent office in Pendleton. There will also be adjustments to the current service level. Based on current resources and the division's ongoing commitments, it is expected that you will receive inspections for each discipline, structural, electrical, and plumbing, a maximum of once a week, and it is probable that service will be available only every other week. We recognize this level of service may seem inadequate to the county and to your contractors. We recognize the inadequacy, but have limited resources available to address the issue without long-term changes to allow the state to hire, pay a market rate, and operate it in a manner that reflects the needs of the businesses we serve. Without these changes, the best we can do is align expectations with our current resources. Encourage your county to explore additional options for service, such as training of local staff, providing permit services locally, and contracting for inspection services with another community or provider. We commit to doing what we can to assist the county, but feel it is important to provide the county with the information needed to make its next steps. We'll get into building codes a little later, but thought it was needed to be read into the record for folks watching at home so they are aware. The other two pieces, we received a letter from Elaine Fitzner from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, to us serving as the special advisory group for the Montague project. I'll summarize because it's a pretty lengthy one as well. Basically expressing her support of renewable energy, but concerns that if Avangrid pursues one of the options where there's towers that are near sort of the Olis area, that will disturb an historic viewshed, basically. Is her.
Who's this from?
This is from a lady out of Coeur d'Alene.
Do we have a copy of it?
You do not, because that just came in,
It
but
just-
I will send it to you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I'm happy to pass it down if you like to, if you want to peruse.
If you send it with me, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I'll read it later.
The last thing for now is an email we received from Max Clare, and this is regarding the juvenile court. I'll read this as well because it's pretty short. I was raised by my mom, and I grew up in Beaverton, Oregon from toddlerhood to 7th grade, managing to get into some trouble in and out of school, having spent a fair amount of time with the principal and a few visits with the police, and grounded once for a bit. Fortunately, I never got into serious enough trouble to go to juvenile court. After 7th grade, we moved to Northern California, where I had the good fortune to meet a neighbor, Mr. Willis, who was a good mentor and later a high school teacher. Mr. Chamberlain became a mentor who I stayed in touch with until in the early 1990s when he died. I also made friends with some straight, geeky kids, one of whose mother gave us a safe place to hang out through high school. I lost track of her and my friend around 1989 and never realized how important they were in my life and never got the chance to thank them. I grew up in a time when kids weren't expelled from school, when people dragged you in, to my case, my mom, for discipline. While I'm not good with kids, I do empathize with them, not feeling like you fit in, trying to negotiate your place in the world. Kids need all the help and understanding they can get. Someone who can put them on the right path. 4-H, young life, sports, a hobby they can become passionate about, a mentor, a juvenile judge who will give them the direction they need. From my personal experience, I feel it's important to keep juvenile court in town with a county judge who can best understand and help kids who may need guidance once in a while. Regards, Max Clare, and he's from Condon. Okay, moving on to consent agenda.
I move we approve the consent agenda with the corrections.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of Homestead rebate program payment for fiscal year 2019-2020, consider approval of service provider for community dispute resolution grant, consider approval of Telecom legal counsel agreement, consider approval of emergency management performance grant application, and 2019 ODOT Road Department Fund exchange agreement. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on, catching up here. December. 5.1, Frontier Telenet update. Frontier Telenet has not met since the last time that we were in session here. They are meeting next week, next Thursday, to do both a budget meeting and then a regular board meeting. So in June.
Budget committee meeting?
Budget committee meeting, yeah. The reason that there is something in your packet though is that I just wanted to make you aware of this for now. But the Roosevelt site, which is over on the Washington side but services a lot of our Gilliam County radios, Gilliam County actually owns a hut over there that Chris Fitz has a lot of some of her equipment in. And apparently there's an issue with the roof leaking there. And that's also one of the sites in the system that doesn't have a backup generator. And so I'm just flagging this, one, because early on, I think we had discussed the possibility that if there were significant needs to the system that directly impacted service within Gilliam County, that we might be willing to pay for part of those. And so I'm kind of raising that. I think Chris is meeting with Brown Roofing to actually look at what may be needed to fix that. Of course, the issue of if it's leaking and it continues to leak, there's a lot of the electronics in there, and so we probably want to get it taken care of. But the question I would have for you guys is this something that you would like me to really push to have Frontier Telenet buy the generator and do those kinds of things, or is this something that the court is interested in being part of our contribution to the system? You don't necessarily have to make a decision today, but I'm just throwing that out there to think about and maybe circle back to. Part of that may be contingent on how much money we're talking about, and so maybe part of that is having Chris do a little bit more investigation into the roof and what it may cost to fix that. And I also would maybe want to talk to Chris about, on the generator side, whether that's something that there are emergency management grants or something that we can look at doing for that.
That would be a good idea.
Yeah. So I'm throwing that out there. It sounds like we don't have a firm let's pay for it, so I will come back. More information, okay. I will touch base with Chris and try to get some of this flushed out just a little bit more. But I did want to raise that it's an issue that is going to need to be addressed. 5.2, Ardent Mills building update and consider project management agreement with Pillar Consulting. Jeff.
Hi.
Hello. So, did you go down? Did you see?
No, I haven't. We have a meeting scheduled for next Monday.
Okay.
She was gone that week and then was busy this week, so we're going to Monday afternoon at 1:30 p.m.
Okay.
Something like that.
So it sounds then like what the decision before the court today is just to reaffirm our relationship in terms of your project management stuff and getting that kind of moved forward into the current budget cycle, so we're not paying you out of whenever this was originally. 2016. I'm sure Nathan would appreciate us to pay out of the current fiscal year if we can.
Okay.
Questions for Jeff about this?
I don't think I had any questions. Did you, Leslie?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the project management agreement with Pillar Consulting?
I move we accept the agreement between Pillar Consulting Group for the Ardent Mills repairs for the 2019 project management. Estimated time and materials of $2,600.
Well, let's do it for lower than the ones. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We'll get everything right now.
Do you have a line item you want that to come out of?
You can say what the budget is.
Are we?
I can suggest one if you would.
Oh,
Are
that
you
was the regular one.
One second. Are you anticipating that you will bill us before the end of the fiscal year?
I doubt it.
Probably not.
We probably won't be ready
Okay.
by then.
It'd be maintenance repairs.
Getting pretty close to June 30 now.
Hers. Okay. Out of 101, 104.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Is there not enough budgeted for the next year for $2,600?
No, I think
No, there is, yeah.
There is. I was just checking. Okay, so it is. Let me see if I can get this. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the agreement with Pillar Consulting for Ardent Mills repairs in the estimated amount of $2,600, with the funds to come from the maintenance line item in Fund 104, 101, 104. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, we will get this. Do I need to sign this for you, Jeff? You just signed it.
Somebody, if somebody can,
Okay.
scan it back to me and then I'll send it back to you.
Okay. Then while you're sitting here, let's move right into the courthouse roof repair, 5.3.
Okay, so at the last meeting, I had scheduled a meeting with Brown Roofing, Travis Nelson, we met there, because they installed the roof in 1995, and he looked at the roof, he's like, well, you know, for being 25 years old, it looks pretty good. There are clearly some places where it's failing. The edges are not adhered down very well. And there's some ponding on that roof, and there's going to be ponding on that roof just because of the way it's built. I think it would be hard to completely get rid of that. Ponding being that there's times standing water on the roof. And you can, if you go to Google Earth, it shows it pretty clearly where the standing water is. So in some of those places, there's 2 layers of roof, but the roof is, that bond is broken. So it's got to be the first layer in some places. You don't know about getting into the insulation. It's a rigid insulation, so it's not quite as critical as it's back. So what I have going on right now, let me go back. So I talked to them about some different options back, going back with the type of roof we have, going back with a PVC roof that's fleece back, or going back with a really high roof. And I think the right thing to do is probably look at going back with a PVC roof that we can directly adhere to that existing roof. It's going to be cost effective. It's also warrantable for ponding, because apparently that type of roof we have right now in today's environment would not be warrantable. It might work, but there's no roof warranty on known ponding. There is going to be known ponding. So PVC overlay, I think, makes some sense to do that. I have lined up a person to come that represents primarily Duralast roof, which is what I intend to use as the basis of design. So for bidding purposes, we can't lock ourselves into one manufacturer, but we can use a basis of design for if somebody offers an alternate roof. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we have a Duralast representative coming to take a look, and they're going to do some pull tests to make sure that we can adhere the system to the roof. They're also going to look at it. Apparently they use, I'm assuming it's infrared and a drone to look and see if they think we have any water damage to the insulation. It's going to happen on Friday the 24th. Okay? So that's kind of where we stand with it. And then we have a preliminary set of plans that kind of have a different detail for how we would do the edge metal and supporting the antennas on the roof, because that, I think, needs to be addressed. But after that, then we can probably think about going out for a proposal for it in June, probably June. So it'd be like theoretically, this next fiscal year that would come out.
Okay.
Travis thought it would be, Travis Nelson with Brown Roofing thought it would be in the $80,000 to $100,000 range for that project, which, it's over 100, we gotta go out for full bid. I think the way we're going to approach it is going out with the intermediate procurement procedure where we select contractors who are gonna go out for the full bid on it, hoping that it'll be under $100,000. If it's not, then we'll have to regroup and do it. We'll definitely,
Do the full one.
yeah, do the full one. Looking at square footage and my experience with those types of roofs, it'll probably be between 80 and 100. So
Okay.
that's where we are. Does anybody have any questions?
I think I do.
So what's the next step?
Do you have any questions?
What's
Start
the
with
next
that. Or that was your question.
Yes.
So I think the next step is we're going to have somebody do another roof inspection from the manufacturer, making sure we can adhere the roof system down to the existing one there. Then we'll come back, putting out, after that we'll know what we need to do with the RFP, because that'll help us define the scope of work. And then my intention is to put the RFP out in June,
So
early June.
will we see a proposal for you as far as your services?
Well, I'm working under the existing one that I have.
How much is
right
left
now.
on that?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I was going to go write invoices this afternoon. I'm sure there's enough left on it, but I don't know off the top of my head. Get back to you. You can send me an email and get back.
Okay.
And that was from last summer when you
That's actually,
looked at it.
yeah, the proposal actually was dated, was signed in 2017. So, I mean, we can refresh that if we want. That's what I've been working on.
Okay.
And we do have a pretty robust facilities,
Budget.
yeah, for the upcoming fiscal year. Because remember, we closed out the debt service and transferred that into facilities. So we've got pretty good resources sitting in there and some flexibility on expenditure for the roof and any other emergency that comes up in the building in the next year. So, cool. Well, I guess we'll wait to hear what
Thank you,
the
Deb.
All right, we'll see you
next
next
thing
month.
is.
I'll see you Monday.
Yes, have a nice afternoon.
So on the roof, do you want us to leave, do you want us just to wait, do you want me to wait until late June to hear from you about putting that, like, some of these I just keep continuously on the agenda for updates, but is there gonna be any update you think between now and the next?
We do an update on June, the first meeting in June.
First meeting?
Okay.
We should have the Duralast.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll just make a note to Sandy
Yep.
to keep that on the agenda.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, have a
Thanks,
nice
Jeff.
afternoon.
I'll see you later. 5.4, consider approval of Arlington TV Co-op promissory note amendment. So we had, since we were right in the middle of transition, we went ahead and had Ruben look at this one. And this is his draft, obviously, making the adjustment that we asked him to make on the timeline, and also adding the interest of this current year that the loan has been out, and then readjusting the payments basically based on that. So, any questions about, we don't have him here obviously, but if there were any concerns, we could always table it and go back.
I don't think so. I think it was pretty,
I didn't have anything.
yeah, it was the same contract, just the dates are changed. Thank you. My feet are frozen and my fingers are working.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, well, I'll make the motion, because I think I made the original motion. I move to nullify the promissory note with Arlington TV Cooperative dated June 1st, 2018, and replace it with the new promissory note dated June 1st, 2019, which postpones the initial annual installment payment by 1 year and recalculates payments to account for the accrual of 1 year's unpaid interest on the original loan amount.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we nullify the promissory note with Arlington TV Cooperative dated June 1st, 2018, replace it with the new promissory note dated June 1st, 2019, which postpones the initial annual installment payment by 1 year and recalculates payments to account for the accrual of 1 year's unpaid interest on the original loan amount. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, then we'll want to make sure that we get the new one filed with Nathan.
Yeah, I'll have to get them to sign it.
Sounds good. Okay, moving on. 5.5, Shetler Station tax lap consolidation. So this is a cleanup of our cleanup. In the original motion, there was a problem with one of the references, and so Ched is just asking us to go back and clean up the motion so it's clear in the record our intention. And I asked him if we needed to have all of the numbers in here, and for the most part, he said actually yes. So I don't know if one of you wants to take it or you want me to take it?
I got it.
Okay.
Ready?
I'm so glad.
I move to approve the tax lot consolidation request between tax lot 2 North, 21 East, 0000-01750-R04917 and 2 North, 21 East, 0000-1104-R04741 to consolidate all of the Shetler Station land.
Very good motion.
Is
I'll
there-
second that one.
Okay, now I get to read it back. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the tax lot consolidation request between tax lot 2 North, 21 East, 0000-01750-R04917, and 2 North, 21 East, 0000-1104-R04741 to consolidate all of the Shuttler Station land. Whew, that's a mouthful. Is there further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We are on to 6.1. Do you know if Marla's
Oh,
going to?
5.6,
I
Oh,
told
shoot.
her, I told her to be here at 1:30, so she should be showing up.
Well, good thing, because I skipped ahead. I missed the minutes. So 5.6 was consider approval of May 1st regular meeting minutes. And I just, there were just a few small things. A couple are just small typos, which I can probably just share with Sandy and have those.
Yes,
Like there's an extra
right,
4
some of
in
these
there.
Leslie pointed out, and we've already changed.
And you got those fixed.
Yeah.
The only one that is really of substance is that in the first hearing no public comment, it says Judge Schaefer. So if you could just
Oh.
correct that and have it say Judge Farrar, just so they don't think that he came back and ran the meeting. And that was the only change of significance that I
Can't
had.
you have any times I've typed Judge Pryor?
Yeah, I know it's probably just it's a muscle reaction,
Yeah.
I'm sure, or muscle memory. So anyway, that was the only change I had, but I thought it was worthwhile getting the right judge in there. Any other changes?
I didn't have any other.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of 5/1/19 as amended.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 1st as amended. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, consider approval of May 1st listening session minutes. And this is a small thing, but it'll be significant to Kelly. So on page 5, where it says Kelly Smith said her child had been for the juvenile court as part of a delinquency proceeding and later for a dependency proceeding. What she actually said was that her daughter had been part of delinquency proceedings, both as the delinquent and as the victim.
Oh.
And so I just want to clarify that because otherwise it leaves the impression that her kids were taken from her.
I thought that's what I put.
Dependency.
I changed that because I
Oh,
apparently
okay.
misheard, so I will change it right back.
Okay.
So yeah, if we can, that was the only thing. Just so somebody doesn't look in the record later and think that Kelly had her kids removed from the home. But other than that, that was the only thing of substance I had. Any other amendments to that? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the listening session from May 1st as amended?
I wasn't there for the big thing, so.
I'll make that
So you don't wanna
motion. I'll move to approve the minutes of the listening session from, of the juvenile court listening session from May 1st, 2019 as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes from the juvenile court listening session from May 1st, 2019 as amended. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Marla's not here yet.
I have a question. Are the minutes available somewhere to the public to read
Yeah, they're all on the county website.
on the online?
Yeah, so if you go to the county
Should I not
website,
move up to the new, this is why I'm here, to learn,
They're all
these things.
they're all online, and the other thing is we record all of our public meetings.
I got that, but I never could get any sound.
So those are on YouTube.
But-
So yeah, if you ever want to go back and think, well, because obviously these are summaries, so if you want to see exactly what was said, that's a good place for people to go back and kind of capture more of the flavor of the back and forth.
Thank you.
Since Marla isn't here yet, should we go ahead and just go to 6.2 and kind of dispense with
Yeah.
these things and then circle back, because I think the staffing is going to be the big topic of the conversation today. So 6.2 is approved building codes letter to Wasco County. So this is in, I don't know if did we mention this during the last court meeting?
Yes.
But so Wasco County's budget assumes that 3.2 million and change of the McCog reserves will be going to them for building codes. Obviously, the agreement from McCog was that the 4 counties would decide that allotment for each county. And so we had talked during the last court meeting about just making it clear to Wasco County that that agreement needs to be in place before they can touch any of the reserve funds. So this is the follow-up to make sure that we're just on the record and clear with Wasco County about our expectations, and also asking for them to schedule a joint meeting with us, Sherman and Wheeler County, to come up with a final resolution and get moving on building codes. So, were there any edits that we wanted to make to this letter, or did this capture what we're?
I didn't have any.
This was a team effort by Sandy and I, so
Good job.
he did a great job drafting, and then I made it one page because I'm a stickler for condensing things. So is there a motion to approve the letter to Wasco County?
I move we approve the letter to Wasco County regarding the building codes reserves held from the McCog dissolution.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the letter to Wasco County regarding the building codes reserves from McCog. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will send that out, and then also we're planning on CCing the Wheeler County Court and the Sherman County Court. And then we'll probably follow up with all of them and say, when can we get together?
Yes.
So Sandy will probably be in touch about looking at dates, or we can decide whether we want to, it gets a little bit more complicated when we have all of the courts.
I wasn't sure if we
in.
were talking the whole court or just 3 representatives from
One from each county.
I mean, it's up to you all, I think. Legally, I think counsel would probably tell us that we cannot take action on something outside of the county. And so wherever we meet, if there was an agreement, we would have to come back to our own counties and approve that agreement.
Do you anticipate being able to come to an agreement? Why?
I mean, I'll lay my cards on the table and we'll see if Wasco County is listening, but I think that we have a strong case to be made that because there are not adequate records, that the fairest thing to do is to split it 4 ways.
I totally agree with that.
And I feel pretty strongly that the rules that they left in the COG, them being as broad as they are, really signify that unless we say yes, nobody can touch it, the funds, we as Gilliam County.
Right.
So my position, I think the position we should take is that we're not settling for less than a quarter and just cut straight to the chase with Wasco County. Now, if they want to have all 4 of us still continue to work together on building codes, well, then that's the next step of the conversation, in which case all of the funds may end up eventually at Wasco County, but I think they need every incentive to play fair
Yes.
with us
Yes.
in that negotiation.
Yes.
Money is the
And
lever.
sadly, there were not records kept that would be able to distinguish the percentages. So that's the only fair thing to do.
That's how I feel. So that sort of begs the question, if you guys would like to be part of that conversation, we'll work with council to figure out how to structure those meetings so that they follow all the meeting laws and all of that. If you would prefer that I just go and take that negotiation, I'm happy to.
I'm okay with you doing it unless you
I think
want
so. I
us to.
think we're of like mind. And
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Well, then I will.
we
see-
appoint you our representative.
Got it.
Go get them.
Got it. I can do that. Okay. Let's, before we get to you, Marla, I'm going to jump back down to PERS so that we have plenty of time to talk through staffing. So 6.3 is discuss PERS resolution. I am just flagging this because I actually just got back from AOC yesterday, and this was the big hot topic of discussion, is that the legislature is potentially looking at a PERS reform, and a lot of the local governments are joining this PERS solution for public services, basically saying, I think the legislature was initially looking at just resolving or trying to find a solution for the school districts. And so there is a broader push that actually it's a system-wide problem. It affects service levels for all of us. It needs to be a holistic approach. It shouldn't just be limited to the school districts. That all of the local governments should be considered in a solution. So they gave us, of course, they're pitching us to sort of be part of that voice. They pitched the AOC membership to have those individual counties join. They did put together a resolution, which I have not run by our county council. I just wanted to see if this is something that we felt strongly enough that we wanted to be on the record about, and you would like me to go back to county council and just make sure the resolution's okay, or if you would prefer that just individually we can express our own opinions to our legislators about what they should and shouldn't do. It's one of those issues I wasn't sure if we as a county want to take a stance as a body.
Are they getting pretty good buy-in from the rest?
They said they have a couple of counties and cities that have passed resolutions. It definitely was something that people were pushing, particularly because there's a revenue package that's moving through for education. And the fear is that if they don't get PERS straightened out, that all of the money that they raise for the revenue package is going to go to pay them unfunded liability. So there's a sense, at least from some of our colleagues, that the education is going to continue to be shortchanged if PERS doesn't move through at the same time that the revenue package moves through. So.
Are we stronger as a unit and rather than individual voices by accepting something and putting it out there as our counties?
Well, for my vantage point, when I'm down at AOC, it helps to be able to say, instead of this is my own opinion, that this is something that the Gilliam County is supporting. And so, but again, it hasn't been reviewed by council, so I would want to send it to council and just make sure.
Yeah, I think that's worth
pursuing. Okay, I will send it off to them to take a quick peek, and then we'll put it back on for the first June meeting. Okay, so with that, we will go back into 6.1, which is consider transportation department staffing proposal. Marla.
So I sent you a ton of information.
It's good stuff.
Does anyone have any questions on that before I do my pitch?
I had one quick question when I was reading it. What's
Did I miss it?
as far as your
Apparently I missed it.
Sabrina,
Mm-hmm.
from Marla, was she, I thought she was 50-50 for some reason.
She was 50-50 in the beginning, but I got the minutes from 8/16/2017, which they approved a grant submittal, or the county court approved a grant submittal request, pushing her up to 0.75. So that was my justification for saying I'm really only asking for a 0.5.
So you only really have her for 0.25?
And she has so many things she wants to do with the seniors. She needs to get SHEBA certified. We have never had good coverage out here because it was either through McCobb, and then, by the time they'd send somebody out, that was half their day, just in mileage and hours. So she'd like to get certified, and that's for the senior health insurance benefit assistance. And then she knows how to help them do their paperwork, and it's something it's always pressure time, right, when it's time for them to re-up annually, so. Another thing she'd like to do is develop relationships and knowledge to benefit the local or out-of-town nursing homes, because people, as they graduate and they need more care, the families really don't know what to do, and she'd like to help be able to be the liaison to help with that kind of thing. And she would love to do recreational things for the seniors, and all that takes information and brochures that she'd like to create. So with that said, she would pretty much just phase out and cover like Monday's dispatch phones. And with the new person coming on Tuesday through Friday, so they're covered 5 days a week, which is something we haven't had. And that's what we were kind of pushing for. She might, I mean, she'll still have to do some trip sheets and help out, so that should round out her .25.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I think we, just for everyone's in the audience, and Marla already knows this, but the budget committee, as you guys remember, we did put aside enough money for up to a full-time dispatcher, but the budget committee really left it to us to determine when and if to fill it and at what FTE. So that's kind of the question for today. If we want to fill it, at what level, so that we, in the next meeting or two, will need to approve the salary schedule. If we're creating a new position, we also need to notify the union and make sure all of the, all the wages and everything are worked out ahead of time before we approve that schedule. So that's why it's coming before you today, so that I have direction to take the next step on the salary schedule for us to approve.
And in case you had any questions on the compliance review, because I have a ton of work to do. There was 12 high priority compliance observations, 2 low priority compliance observations, and 4 advisory recommendations. So that was a lot for the last one. We've only had like 4, I think. So, but it has expanded. The FTA's gotten tougher, and there's all kinds of new grant, what we can go for as far as their macro and their micro and their small and their different size grant dollars. And I just really need to be focusing on that a lot and not spending so much on time of taking phone calls, if that's possible. And there was also just, I think we just had it in passing, but maybe as absorbing the fleet transportation too, since we already have the software and everything for it. So we could take that off Terry Carnine's hand.
Didn't you have someone come in the last 2 summers and help you with your data entry?
We had last summer, yeah, Natalie. And then the intern, she was finishing up Natalie's hours, and Naya's been doing that. She's got it, she's getting there. And then we also bought Fleetio software. It's a maintenance program, and she's entering stuff in that right now. And we're going back from the beginning of time when we had the vehicles, and all the records will be stored in one spot instead of in files and willy-nilly.
I think just, and I don't know if you guys get this kind of feedback, but aside from the road department, I would say this is probably the single biggest service that we provide that I hear about people utilizing and appreciating that it's in place. And that's generally the thing that I hear the most about when I'm out in the community in terms of direct things that we provide to people. It's probably, people are passionate about the roads, but I hear a lot of people who really value transportation and whatnot.
There are a lot of people that are taking advantage of the service and are really appreciative of it. So, yeah, and having the office, the phones manned 5 days a week, I think is really important too.
Yeah, and then that way, if something happens on a Friday, she'll be able to call me, and I can go take care of it if that's what it requires. Because there's a lot of times I'm not around my cell phone, and I don't answer it, so she'll know how to get a hold of me. It'll be better.
Consistent. Did you
Yes.
have a comment?
I do, because as Marla knows, I'm one of those ones that are very dependent on the transportation. And it just makes me feel better when I call and I can actually talk to a person. Because if you leave a message, then you're on jitters. Did they get it? Am I going to get there on time? Because either I'm going to Bend or Portland or someplace. So, yeah, what you're proposing, as I understand, a full-time dispatch person?
Yeah, well, she'll be working on Fridays as well, so that's a day we've never had any coverage. And it'll be Tuesday through Friday. And yeah, to have somebody full-time on the phones, not trying to do other things. Sabrina's trying to do senior things, I'm trying to take care of paperwork. And phone calls, messages get built up, and we call back when we think it's timely, but I know it's not timely for them.
Well, we're old and we're impatient.
No, I know, and I totally understand that.
Well, and if you have an appointment,
You wanna have
make sure
certainty
you're gonna
about
be
it.
able to get
Yeah,
there.
Yeah.
By the time you get your appointment, you're already stressed because they put you off,
Exactly.
or, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get an appointment. that-
It
yeah.
is, it is.
Yes, and then if you have to reschedule, it's just a nightmare, so.
So I think the direction we're looking, or what I'm looking for is clarification today from the court on whether, one, it sounds like we want to fill the position, but I want to make sure that,
So I'm totally in favor of
okay.
this. Yes.
And then the question is whether it should be what FTE, if you want to fill that as a full-time. One of the things that we did budget for was 40 hours. Because we'd like to, as we've talked before, starting to transfer employees, or as we get new employees into that 40 hours, so the accounting's a little cleaner. So then the question, kind of what I need from you is, do you want this to be part-time or full-time? And then from there, we don't have to decide, I don't think we need to decide pay ranges and things like that. We can decide that within the salary schedule. I just need direction on whether it's a full-time or part-time. And then Marla and I can work together on developing the job description and getting all those things in place. And then working on a recruitment plan in the new fiscal year. So this is just kind of the initial direction on which way you want to go between.
Marla, you feel it's a full-time, there's 40
Definitely.
hours worth of work, so.
Yeah.
Did you tell us previously that you were getting grant money to?
Yeah, this is all funded 100% through grants. The county won't put any money into it.
Transportation is
Yeah.
fully grant funded.
So
So nothing-
so just to put this out there, because I think it's important, if this is a full-time union position and the grants were to fail, then the county would be on the hook to keep it going or do something.
The county, to clarify, the county would be on the hook to decide whether they wanted to
To
continue.
keep the position, yeah.
Yeah. The union agreement allows us, if a department goes away and a position is no longer there, we are able to lay off people if that's necessary. So, but that's a good point, is that
Right.
and probably whoever we end up hiring needs to be aware that they are grant funded.
Right, and that's how I started
And
back
that's,
in the day.
you know.
How long grant funds, so
How long have you been?
13 or 14 years. And I didn't know if you had a chance to go, I know I'm gonna hop over on this is bill program overview. I don't know if you had time to look through any of that, but it kind of has some immediate things I'd like to get going ASAP. And I know you may not want to deal with it since it wasn't on the agenda for everything, but I would like to possibly get it on the agenda.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get some feedback first on
Finish with the.
the full or part-time.
Full-time.
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 Full-time, okay. So, I don't think that we need to actually have a motion today because we're gonna approve the salary schedule, which will have that wrapped into it.
Okay.
And we already approved the creation of the position technically when we voted on the budget. So, but this gives me and Nathan direction in getting the salary schedule completed. And that'll either come before us.
So
As a thought.
the budget committee doesn't have the authority to create this position, the court has to do that. So just because it was put in the budget, that you should
Right.
need to have a motion to create this position.
Okay?
Okay.
Not necessarily now, but it's something.
Yeah.
Okay.
I sort of assume that would be wrapped into when we create the job description and all of that. So,
Well, whenever you want.
unless you want to make the motion,
Whenever you want to do it.
it's up to you guys.
We did give you direction, so.
You did give me direction. I have enough to go forward with what I
Okay,
need
let's-
for today.
I'm
Let's
glad
do
you
what we
keep-
need to do to
I'm glad you
create the
keep-
position.
I'm glad we keep bringing up the salary schedule too, because that was one of my questions. And when are we gonna, when do we start seeing it?
It's on the list. There's still a few things that we're working out with the union on. Remember, there was Kelly who had interest in being bumped up to 40, and so we're getting that, making sure that's kosher with the union.
Okay.
And then Marla's interested in having a little bit of flexibility in her schedule, just saying. So. Just throw that out there.
As long as we're talking, right?
Okay, so I think that's all for today, but you and I will touch base and break out some of these to put on the agenda so we can notice them for June.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that folks know what we're going to be talking about. And then, do you need, though, I did have a question on the ADA accessible vehicle.
Mhm.
Is that something that you need the court
That's
to approve? Because you would like to expend that by the end of the fiscal year.
right, and this is where the problem it had come up in the past. I assume when I put out there with the grant submittal that I'm going to buy vehicles, that was the court's information. I mean, I've told them about it, and therefore I could spend the dollars. And one time it was fine, another time it wasn't. So I would like guidance on how you would like it.
Do you go through a state pool to do that?
Yeah, I have to because they're ADA, and otherwise I just go local dealerships and I bring it to you and we take the lowest bid, or you take the bid from the best service, or that type of thing.
This came up in the sheriff's office as well, because they purchased a new vehicle. And this was sort of, we do need clarity from the court on. This is how I handled it in the immediate, how it came up, is if we've budgeted it specifically, so it's in the budget, we know that in the case of the sheriff's office, we're going to expend it. If they are going through the state bidding process, where we know that that's kosher and the state has already done that, then rather than have the court approve that, but reapprove that basically. And so the question is, do you want all of those vehicles to come back before us if we've already approved them and if they're going through state bids, which means we know that the bidding process has been done appropriately?
The only thing I worry about a little bit, well, I don't know, and maybe this is just conversations that have taken place in the past, is, I don't know, there was a lot of discussion about whether something was already budgeted or not. That didn't necessarily mean that you had approval to, because there's a lot of things that we put in the budget, that we put in the budget for this position. So that's only one concern I have about doing it, but I can also see it from the other side, so I struggle with that one a little bit, and I have.
I would say definitely if you are not going through the state bidding process that has been done by the book, and it's something that the county is managing the procurement process, then I think that needs to have a record within the public meeting. Where I still am struggling, and maybe it's something we need to think about a little bit more, is when something has been budgeted and it's being purchased through the state bidding process.
Is that good enough?
Is that good enough for us?
I need more information.
Okay.
And regardless of, I'm just going to point out that ODOT, regardless of how I purchase a vehicle, I'm still required to do the 3 bids. And they track it when I send it all in to get the title and the registration. And to get reimbursed, if I don't have all those in a row, then we don't get the money.
So it
So
sounds,
it
maybe just to keep this clean since you're here and we're talking about it, would the court feel comfortable authorizing Marla to go forward with the procurement process for it's a purchase of one ADA accessible vehicle, which will carry 7 passengers and 1 wheelchair. That'll be based out of Arlington, and it would be paid for with grant dollars.
Because your money's going to go away on June 30th.
Yeah, because I just didn't get it done in time, so. Now it's a hurry up and
Yeah.
scramble.
But I mean, we could definitely, we still have 2 court meetings before the end of the fiscal year. So we would have time, if you go through that procurement process, to bring it back to us if the court would entertain those bids.
I could just send send the bids and all that, so we can have final approval, that's fine.
Yeah, does that give you enough time?
Yeah, because I'm working with 2 of them. It's kind of a scramble. I have to take what's in inventory. So I've got 2 people working. That's all I have is 2 that are ODOT contracted that I have to work with. And they're both scrambling right now trying to find what I want. And so I'd have it hopefully within the next couple weeks. I mean, the bids, so you guys can approve that.
Okay. Are you guys okay with moving it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have permission to go find bids for
Thank you.
the vehicle. And then we'll get the rest on the court's agenda. The
Okay.
situation, the potential agreement with the city and those things.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good.
Any questions?
Marla.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marla. All right. Where are we at? I think we're through the bulk of the agenda. 7.0 court member reports. Leslie.
I didn't think I was hardly gonna have anything because I had a family illness, so that kind of threw me off a little bit in the last week or so. But I missed a meeting with the North Central Public Health District. I was going to call in. It was the this budget committee meeting, and I was set to call in. I had the number. I had all the information and everything. And in talking to Gloria back and forth a lot that day, she said, we're gonna have a quorum, so why don't you just, because I was at the hospital at the time, so she was like, why don't you just, we can handle it. And so I said, okay, text me if you don't have a quorum, because then I'll be ready. And they ended up with a quorum, so that worked out okay, but I missed that one. And then there was supposed to be a regular North Central Public Health District meeting on Tuesday, and it got canceled. So I just, okay. I was able today, I went by, I came out early and got a tour of the Summit Springs Village, because I've been meaning to do that for a while now, and I just was very impressed. It's beautiful.
Nice, isn't it?
Facility. So glad I finally got a chance to see it. And then I think really the last thing I had is kind of a question, but something that I just wanted to bring up. Letters to the editor this week about the juvenile issue. And I noticed in a couple of them that it seemed to me, unless I'm missing something, that they were confusing a couple different issues. Not just this, that we're considering the possibility of eliminating the juvenile judge, but also that we're talking about changing the whole court structure. Unless I didn't understand, but that's the way I was reading it, and I thought to myself, that's not what we're talking about. And so I'm wondering, how is it possible for us to get that information out? That's really not what we're talking about now. Or, is there anything we can do to make people aware that that's not on the table?
One of the things that we might consider doing, because there was a number of things that have come up in the listening sessions that I think that we've asked the attorney to look into. Is it permanent? Are these options? And maybe one of the things we could look at doing is just putting together frequently asked questions that our attorney looks over and makes sure, is legally accurate, and that we just make an effort to share that not only on our website, but maybe send it to MAC as well and see if that's something that we could print, just so that people kind of know what we're talking about. And, and we can just go off of a lot of the questions I think that were asked during the listening session and try to capture those in a way that's just going to be sort of fair and just deliver the facts of, is it permanent? What are we actually talking about with moving it? Does that change the court structure? All of those kinds of things, just to make sure that information is available for people who have questions about it.
That sounds good.
I can do that.
That sounds good. The other thing that, and I didn't think about this until just now, it just popped into my head, but I know we've done a newsletter in the past. And I don't know how often that happens anymore, and I know that, but I didn't know, is that an avenue of being able to explain to some of the public about
A direct mail.
what is happening, what is being considered, what are the reasons why we're even considering the juvenile, a change in the juvenile court. It's just a thought. I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but like I said, just popped into my head.
Well, I know when I was a private citizen that I enjoyed getting that and knowing what was happening, and because most people don't have any idea in there, and unfortunately, the minutes are out there, but not everyone's going out and looking at them. Like Jan said, she wasn't able to get the audio, so not everybody's computer is
Well, I just heard
today either.
Yeah, and I just heard today that I guess the audio, even though the room that we are using in the Grunquist building seems much better, I heard from someone today that the audio is not good.
It's really hard to hear.
When you go try to watch the minutes. Too.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to listen to.
Yeah.
The acoustics are just bad.
I heard that from someone else today too.
So over the years, I've suggested and offered to the 3 county courts space in the newspaper for
things exactly like this. A space to one or all three of you to clarify issues or to talk about things that you're questioned about all the time. Not everybody does YouTube, not everybody does all that. And paper's there every week, and they can go back if they didn't understand the first time, they can take another read. It's just there every week, and it's a value in that respect, and it can be used, I think, invaluably by people who are sitting in your positions. It hasn't been used, hasn't been overused for sure. And letters to the editor sometimes don't get the whole picture, or they throw in other issues or whatever. It can be used to clarify, and in that respect, there's no charge for that. There's no cost for the cost of printing it. Another newsletter that could say the same thing, or you could be using the Times Journal for that kind of thing. It's there. It's always been there.
Do you have a word limit on that?
Yes, we do.
I'm writing it down because I'm going to be emailing you.
We have, that would be different. Letters, we need to curb them. Columns and op-eds are a different story, and it also depends on the authority with which they're written.
Okay.
And so
Well, I think what
figure
I'll...
on a little, something over 350 words.
Okay, so I'm thinking maybe, could we start with, because when we get to our court reports, you'll see that there's some timing that I'm kind of working around on, completely unrelated to the juvenile court decision, personal timing that I'm working around. So could we, for now, start with having me put together the frequently asked questions and having that run in the Times Journal, and then also posting that online in case people are going to look for those juvenile court videos. Might also see, I'm not sure how Kelly has been capturing those, but I might see if she can just create a little juvenile court tab that includes the listening sessions from the videos from the listening sessions of those days, and then any informational stuff that we put out, the frequently asked questions or anything else that may come up over time, so people can just find those and don't have to go searching through our minutes to try to figure out what was said. Does that make sense?
Sounds good.
Is that okay? I will follow up. I will put that on my list of things. Anything else, Leslie?
I believe that was it. Oh, no, one more quick question, sorry. Even with my book.
I'm still waiting for you.
You didn't think I was done. No, just one other quick question, because as I was reading the letters to the editor, it made me think about a couple things, and one of the questions I had is, and I don't remember what we talked about, was, well, now what about probate? Is there any change in the, because that was brought up a couple times too, and I know we've talked about the juvenile department and delinquency and dependency cases, but what was ever said about the probate?
It's two separate decisions, and it hasn't been something that we've taken up. So the Malheur Harney and Grant County all retain their county judge and county court structure, and they take on probate. So that is possible if we wanted to do that. I've had probably maybe half a dozen probate cases come through. A lot of them were kind of wrapping up cases that had been started out under Judge Schaefer. So, I mean, it's not something that I think is, the difference for me with probate is that you're not asking somebody to sit in a courtroom and make snap decisions on what's allowed and what's not allowed. It comes to you via paper and it sits there. So to me, it's maybe a secondary question that we ask in the court. It's not necessarily something that we may not want to address, but it just hasn't been something that we've raised. But the decisions themselves are two separate decisions on how we would want to handle them. And you don't necessarily have to let go of your probate jurisdiction by virtue of letting go of your juvenile court jurisdiction. They're two separate. And in fact, Crook County, I'm still trying to figure out, has no judicial jurisdiction and still retains a county court.
Right.
So there's a couple of different combinations of options. So
think my communication with Donnie Russell today, that his last line was, every county is unique.
Mhm.
So
Seen one county?
You've seen one county.
I've only seen one county.
Judge Pryor coined that, so we have that legacy too, to take with us. So anything else for your,
No, that's it, thank you.
okay. Sherry?
Okay, so I have been to a Norcor board meeting where Hood River established that they were willing to do a $150,000 increase in their allocation in the budget. So the committee has been tasked with coming back with a new budget with those changes in the allocations. And our next budget meeting is May the 28th, when we should be seeing that change.
It seems like you guys, your budget is a really long.
So this is another budget committee.
Isn't this like
itself.
6 meetings?
Well, this was just a
Like
board meeting because the
The one
board
in
needed
May?
to come back with, yeah, because we've had 3 board meetings and 2 budget meetings. And yeah, so we have another budget meeting,
Budget committee.
budget committee meeting.
Yeah. I always trying to get that clear.
2, yeah, I know, you keep correcting us, and I'll get it one of these times, maybe just once, but, so keep doing it.
Okay.
So we're waiting to see what they're gonna come back with. They thought they could work with that. Seemed to, they weren't too stressed about some of the changes they were gonna have to make, so we'll see what happens with that. We have already approved in our budget what the original allocation was, so
Yeah.
I'm anticipating it being less than what they had
Great.
previously asked for. So we'll
Thanks,
see.
Hood River.
Yeah, right. Well, everyone was pleased that Hood River even came back with any increase because of their situation, so it was good news for everyone. So, I also was on the City of Arlington Budget Committee. I even wrote that. Yeah, good job. And we approved their proposed budget, so that was fun. I'm hoping that County College is going to accept some of my work in these budget committees as my makeup for the February, part of the February
The budget
college
stuff.
that I missed. So I've got to present that. I haven't put it together yet. I need to have that ready for County College this weekend so I can ask Mackenzie what all she's going to need for me to present that to get my credits, because I must graduate. Not driving to Salem and Corvallis all these times without graduating. I had a sit-down meeting about an hour and a half with Peter Mitchell to discuss Port of Arlington projects and economic development in the industrial park. So we just kind of had an informal discussion about a few things and where we each stood. And like I said, we're going to County College this weekend, and the state track meet is in Monmouth on Saturday afternoon, and we have a lot of Arlington and Condon High School students that will be participating, so I'm hoping that my granddaughter is also going to be able to do that. And so I'm going to go from County College to the state track meet, which is pretty handy for me, so. And the Frontier Tele Budget Board meeting next week, I plan on attending.
Great.
That is here, so I think that's it.
All right. So I have quite a few things, actually. Two, actually. There are 2 things. There have been 2 kind of emergency situations that came up in the building the last couple of weeks since we last met. One, I'm just putting this out there on the record. I think Sandy's probably already connected with both of you about the situation. The cooling tower has some problems, and so we're not able to cool the building. And so rather, because we have some employees that really are sensitive to the heat, and we want to provide a safe working environment for them, I just went ahead and authorized for our Jameson and Marshall to order the replacement parts we need to get that system working so that our folks can continue working. The other sort of emergency is we had our IT folks came back with an assessment of the problems within our IT system, and this spoiler alert, like we are right on the edge of potential catastrophe with regard to protection of our data, servers that are not configured in the way they need to be, not backing up things that are critical to us doing our business, all of those kinds of things. They came back with an estimate of about $17,000 to clean all of that up, to get things disentangled from the Frontier Telenet world, and get a good firewall in place that is protecting the data, the sensitive data we have in the building, making sure that the server is functioning and set up the way it needs to be, and that backups are happening the way that they need to be. So I told Kelly to go for it, to have them do that, since they are already on contract with us and we went through the procurement process to hire them. They're anticipating that it would be a couple of weeks for those components to come in. And then the tentative plan right now is that they would likely start work on a Friday afternoon. And so Kelly is coordinating with Circuit Court, the Sheriff's Office, and the Clerk's Office, which are usually the three that are in the building and in need of computers, usually in the afternoon. So she'll be coordinating to find a weekend that's going to work for those entities. And then the idea is hopefully they can come in and do that over the weekend so that Monday morning we're actually back up and ready to go. But it will likely bring down the county for the weekend, so we wouldn't be able to access stuff. So when she has a timeline for that, I'm sure she'll be sending out notices to all of us, but just putting it out there and putting it on the record, because we had mentioned this might be coming, and so
Yeah.
as a follow-up, I wanted to let people know that that is the case. But once we get it cleaned up, the internet's going to be much more efficient, and Kelly can sleep at night knowing that something's not going to come crashing down around our heads at any moment. So let's see, what else do we have going on? Lots, actually. So the grant report that I mentioned, the SWCD, I just was looking for some feedback from you guys. Is that, first of all, we haven't had a lot of those come in, so thank you, Herb, for actually following that and following up. But for others that come in, how would you like that information to be shared? Is that something that you would like me to continue to just flag in correspondence? Do you want Sandy just to send it to you guys? I mean, do you want it to be coming as part of our conversations during court when somebody's submitted a report, so it's sort of flagged for MAC? And
I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. It's a good question.
Give it some thought and let Sandy know if we get those, how you would like those to be handled.
Okay.
It's pretty easy for us to just put them in correspondence and just flag that they came in, and then people who are listening know that that document's available if they want to request it of us. We can obviously furnish that. So.
Okay, so other than correspondence, what would be the other alternative of how to handle it?
I mean, we could have them actually physically come in and present it if we wanted to. Or, I mean, it could be totally less formal and it just gets filed away or distributed with the grant files. So it's kind of up to you on how much.
And just to be clear, the deadline was April 30th, so I don't expect a lot more to come in unless we want to reach out to everybody and say we're supposed to get them in.
Yeah.
Because there was no agreements, there's no teeth behind it.
It does though, and so that maybe this is something for us to think about, because we will be requiring reporting for this current round. And so thinking through that process of the best way to receive that information in a way that's helpful for us and transparent to the public. So I'm just putting that on your things to think about list. The other thing is Chet has asked us to take a look at the economic enhancement ordinance and reopen it actually with any hope close to the new fiscal year if we can. There's of particular concern for him is there isn't clarity on what happens when a married couple who lives in two separate homes files for the homestead rebate. The court never gave any clarity on whether that is treated as one household or two households if they're married. So we need to go in and provide some clarity to Chet on whether to cut one check or two checks for that, for rebates. And we've had a couple of examples of that have put in the request this year. So, so what I would be looking at doing, that's gonna have to go through a hearing process since it's an ordinance. So there were a number of other things that Kelly and Nathan have flagged that mostly are housekeeping things. Things like a reference to a fund on one page that doesn't match, the name doesn't match on the second page. Sometimes the figure on one page doesn't match the figure on the second page. Those kinds of things that they just thought, if we're gonna reopen it for the homestead rebate thing, we should just go ahead and clean up some things.
Yeah.
I think Nathan also wanted us to maybe look at whether we want to actually have economic enhancement and economic development be two separate funds, or just make a single fund where the money goes in. And what that does for him is cut down on the number of transfers that we're doing.
Right.
So there may be some other places that we consider cleaning up. So I'm raising that because I think in order to do that, we would probably need to schedule a work session to actually go through that document and have Chet and Nathan and Kelly kind of identify those cleanup areas. And then we'd need to go through the hearing process, so that would take at least 2 meetings. I asked Chet if we could get it done by early July. Would that work for him? He would love to have it done before then, but I don't think we can actually get that done on the calendar. So I wanted to see if you guys were open to scheduling a work session, maybe on one of the court days that we're already here. I don't anticipate it's going to be a long discussion, you know, maybe an hour and a half. So is that something you're interested in? And if so, I think I'll have Sandy just circle back with you and decide on the date so we can get those noticed.
Okay.
And then I'll also just give legal counsel heads up that this is something we're going to be opening up so we can give Chet some clarity on what to do. Let's see, what else is happening? Lots. Are any of you planning on going to the NACO conference? Okay. They sent something about getting voting credentials. Apparently we have to be credentialed to participate, and so you have to designate the person who's going and all that. So if none of you are going, then disregard.
Okay.
This is just an FYI. So we have our new council is officially on board. They started on last Wednesday. One of the things I asked them about was with regard to the recruitment for the chief of staff position. I thought it might be beneficial for all 3 of us to have an opportunity to interview those candidates and be part of the recruitment process. And so our council took a look at that, and there's a process by which we can do that, but we need to basically hit pause on the recruitment and take a few steps back and do some things that we didn't do initially. So that's why you won't see the chief of staff announcement on the website any longer. Didn't run in the Times Journal because that is on advice of council that we go back in there. He's working on a few documents that we need to approve. Basically what it is we need to approve in a public session the hiring process and allow the public to comment on that. And because that was still pretty vague when we took this up, he would like us to go back and actually formalize that and make that very clear and allow the public opportunity to weigh in on what that process looks like. So it shouldn't be a huge heavy lift. He's going to be working on that next week, and so it would probably be on the first meeting in June that we would go back. And then once that's in place, we can restart the recruitment, or a new recruitment rather, I think is probably how we'd like me to phrase it, of the chief of staff position.
Okay.
So the other thing to just flag, Sandy gave you a copy of this, but DMV sent us a letter that just arrived yesterday, I believe, flagging a few issues with the building related to ADA accessibility. And it's not something that we need to take action on. I'm putting it out there because the bottom line of it is DMV is telling us that without upgrades to the building that meet these compliance concerns, that they would no longer be able to provide DMV services in the courthouse. So I'm just going to start off by looking and maybe having a quick conversation with Jeff There's one in here particularly, a concern about the lift not being wide enough. And so I'm not sure that the building would even allow for us to have a larger lift. So I kind of want to get just a quick read from Jeff on whether that's even possible before we go down the process of trying to figure out if we can even make this work. And then I should note too that DMV didn't just say that we needed to upgrade the building, they also said that they were willing to pay for a portion of those costs. So, but I'm flagging that because that's going to come before us again down the road.
Did they, I'm trying to remember how it was left before.
They were going to do a ADA inspection and get back to us.
Oh, okay.
And this is the
We was waiting like 3
following
months.
hearing.
for them
I was
get
gonna
back
say,
to
because
us.
I thought it was kind of, yeah.
I can add something that since I worked on the committee when we first put that elevator in, and the reason it is the way it is because that was the only space available.
Yeah.
Unless you just redid your whole courthouse. They had to deal, correct, Matt? Is that?
Well, I'm thinking that was the case, it was limited.
Because we all asked those questions because at that time we had a client that needed more weight, more space, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But it was very restrictive. And so we decided that we better get something.
Yeah.
Something was better than nothing.
Yeah. I think what is likely to happen based on that comment and just looking at the building is that Jeff is likely going to tell us you would need to totally redo this front if you wanted to do it, and that it would far exceed what the estimates from DMV came in at. And so then that would be a question of whether keeping DMV in the building is worth that investment. And but a broader question is if we just need to go ahead and if we're out of compliance with ADA, if we need to make those expenditures anyway.
Yeah, let's, you know, you can always move to Arlington too.
The DMV or the
Yeah,
courthouse?
No, I brought that up a couple times too. Hey, let's get him in Arlington too.
That might be an option. Might be an option. Okay, 2 last things, real quick. I just got home from AOC yesterday. While I was down there, the Jefferson County folks were there. I did ask them for a sit down to talk about the 911 center and some of their concerns, some of the reasons they're pushing us to consider looking at Wasco County. We are working through that. I think it is fair to characterize the conversation as they definitely are one of the driving forces behind asking the 911 board to look at moving. So it was helpful to at least hear that directly from them instead of hearing that second or third hand through people. But their concern.
I'm confused. What difference it makes whether it's in Wasco County or Gilliam County?
They're operating under what I think is a false assumption that the larger labor pool will produce more dispatchers. I pushed back in that if you add Wasco County, the demand for dispatchers goes up. And I'm not sure, I think wherever the 911 center is, that community is gonna always struggle with finding people who stay in that career for a long term and don't face burnout with the demands of the job and the schedules that our dispatchers have to work. It's part of the challenge of that particular kind of job. And so, anyway, but they did tell us a couple of things that I thought were helpful. It was helpful for me to hear directly from the commissioners themselves on where they were. It sounds like they are sort of in the position that if Sheriff Atkins is happy, that they are happy. So I think Gary's and my mission is to keep Sheriff Atkins happy so that they continue to be part of the partnership and we are able to keep it in Condon. So, but I wanted to flag that because I know that's something people are worried about and I just want to let people know that I'm working on it. Still working on building codes, still trading voicemails with the city of Boardman. I did speak with Don Russell last Friday. I saw him. he said that he had mentioned it to the city of Boardman and that they are definitely interested in talking to us about the possibility of them taking over our building code. So it's just a matter of Karen and I figuring out a time to actually talk about what that would look like. The other thing is their building inspector comes on board on the 20th, and so I think it's possible that her not getting back to me as quickly, maybe that she may be waiting for him to be on board before she adds another client to his list of people. So it's possible that that's why I'm not hearing back from her, is it's a strategic no call back. But she has indicated to Commissioner Russell that she is interested in working with us, and yet I haven't heard from her yet. So anyway, the final thing to flag is that I am going on vacation, and I am going to be out of the country for a week.
Good for you.
Starting the 27th, and I will be back late on the 3rd. So the staff is aware of that. I've asked them to turn in their timesheets, and Ellen knows that, so we can manage AP and all of that without disruption. But I just wanted to flag that for you guys. I am literally not taking any electronic devices. So I will.
Good for you.
So just one of you may consider being on call if there's an emergency that needs a signature. But other than that, I'm not going to be available. If there is a juvenile matter that comes up, Judge DeBolskas has agreed. I'm going to sign a court order basically making him a pro tem, so that there is an emergency hearing, he has authority to transfer court cases over to the circuit court as we've been doing. So that is taken care of, and he's in total willing to do it. And Amy is coordinating with Amber, who is their juvenile director, to make sure if there's any issues that she knows how to get a hold of Joe. So, but that's all I've got.
Okay.
Any other court reports?
Nope.
I like monopolize like 20 minutes worth of time.
You did good.
It was all important.
Announcements, next meeting.
Next meeting will be June 5th at the county courthouse, 1 o'clock. Just closed the special grants application deadline last night. So we're setting up the review team to meet next week and go through those, and we'll bring back. So what we've done in the past, and I don't know if the court wants to stick to this or not, is that at the first meeting in June, we've met in Condon and discussed the South End Special Projects grants. And then the second meeting in June has been in Arlington and discussed the North End grants. Do we want to keep to that?
Do people show up?
They do,
Listen, they do?
yes.
Okay.
And
Well, it's
to,
time for our Arlington meeting anyway, isn't it?
yeah, it's the normally scheduled, the second meeting in June is normally in Arlington. Okay.
Sounds fine by me.
All right, so we'll
People
plan
wanna
on
listen?
that. So we'll have the reviews ready for you a week ahead. ODE, Oregon Department of Energy's meeting here in town tomorrow at Lori's Place. 3:30 is the meeting, 5:30 is the public hearing on Montag Wind Project. Frontier Telenet's meeting on the 23rd, 10 a.m. for the budget meeting, 1 p.m. for the regular meeting. Metro finally got back to me on a tour with them. None of the dates we suggested worked for them. So they suggested June 27th, which is a Thursday, and said basically if that doesn't work, they're going to have to push back to September.
We have the road tour scheduled for the 26th, right? So we got 2 days in a row there.
Either that or we postpone the road people.
We're scheduled to
People,
roll.
road people, do we? I mean, that's would be
I'm
possible.
available.
So the 27th, and any kind of
27th.
time frame on that day?
No, I mean,
Just-
I
that's
imagine it'll
just
be a
tentative day.
half-day thing. Meet with them and then tour the waste management site. Is that,
I mean, I think it's a lot easier to reschedule the road tour than the metro
Yes.
tour if we're not able to do 2 meetings that week. So I would prefer to keep metro if they have the time.
okay.
And then maybe you guys can just let Sandy know if you have time for 2 days available that week, and if not, then talk to, or maybe Leslie can coordinate with Dewey about
Sounds
a new date.
Why don't you talk to Dewey,
Okay.
do it on the 2 of your schedule.
Okay.
So for the hearing, since we're on things, for the hearing for the work session for the economic enhancement ordinance. Do you guys want to try to do that on the 5th? And just do
No? She said.
before the meeting, after the meeting?
And so, okay,
Is there
so this economic, when was the last time we reviewed it? Just out of curiosity.
Not very
It
long
wasn't
ago.
that long
I just feel like
It was just done, I think we're just starting the,
I just feel like I just
this
did
is
it.
currently
You
the
did just
first
do
year of
it,
it.
and I wouldn't even be asking to open it, but there is a question.
Is it just that married couple question? Really? Is there that many people that's been a?
There's 2 couples that it's affected. So it'd be 4 checks or 2 checks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was redone in 2017. Usually it's every 5 years. The other thing that's in here that you guys have discussed is the special projects and possibly combining it, getting rid of the north and south and just having one pool. So
One fund.
that could be discussed here too, if it was opened back up.
I'm sorry, I'm feeling exceptionally tired today.
I know, family stuff, it is draining.
Yes.
I mean, it is something we could look at. We could look at the 5th, we could look at the 19th. That if we did it the 19th, it's gonna push it until late July, early August, probably before that would be approved. I'm not sure that's enough time for Chet. I'd have to check with him to see when he needs to have clarity before he. I don't know when he actually cuts the check and needs to certify who people, what people received it. I don't know what that.
I mean, because we don't get them until November, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if there's a time frame that he has to, I don't know what builds into that time frame. I guess is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I don't
I don't know when he needs to know.
I don't either.
And something else that you're gonna need to decide is this an emergency or not? Because if it's not an emergency, you have to go through the full process, and then there's a 90-day period before it actually takes effect. So if we want a faster process, you'd have to declare it as an emergency.
Right, and I know that some people don't like it when we declare emergencies, if they're not emergencies.
I mean, we'd still go through the regular hearing process, I think. There's enough time, as long as we schedule the work session early enough in June, there's enough time to have public meetings and have people have input on it. It's just the actual enactment of it, whether it's a 90-day enactment or whether it begins on a tighter time frame. So part of that will be driven by the assessor's time frame, frankly, I think.
What his requirements are,
Yeah.
I'm just tired. I can do if you guys want to press on and think we need to do it again now, I can do the 5th if that's.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Is it easier to do after the court hearing or in the morning?
In the morning.
Yes, definitely in the morning.
Okay. So let's schedule.
I turn into a pumpkin, when I have to get back.
I will be fresh off vacation, so I'm gonna be
Yeah.
chipper,
Oh, yeah, right.
energized,
Yeah,
ready to go.
because you're gonna come back and your desk is gonna have paper stuff.
No, that's exactly what's gonna happen. I'll have one day to go. Can I sneak out of here without anybody noticing and live in the Bahamas forever? So should we say
Pre-honeymoon?
that kind of bachelorette party? So are we saying 10? What
10?
on the 5th? What time for you guys?
Oh, that's the other thing too. We probably don't have any idea how long this might take.
Depends on how many
I bet
items in it you want to reopen.
we could probably do it in an hour to 90 minutes. An hour might be, it depends on if you come ready to make decisions, really.
Well,
It's a work
don't ask
session,
her
so
that
not make
today.
decisions.
No, but,
Just fuzzy head today.
To be clear on where we're going is what
Yeah.
what I meant to
Yeah.
convey. So should we could do it for, say, 10:30. That gives us 90
An hour and a
minutes.
half,
And if we'll order in lunch if we look like we're going over. Would that work?
Yeah. I
Okay,
think so.
let's do 10:30 then. Any other announcements? I kind of cut you off there, but I thought since we're scheduling anyway.
So, just to be clear, are we decided the 27th for Metro?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I'll let them know, get that set up. The Veterans Benefit and Resource Fairs on June 8th at Earl Snell Park, 9 a.m. Frontier Telnet Budget Hearing is scheduled for the 12th at 1 p.m. here in Condon. And we may or may not cancel the road tour.
Okay.
One last question, because this came up, and we can decide next meeting if you like, but give some thought. The first meeting in July is on the 3rd of July. I think in some years past, the court has just not held the first meeting of the month. Would you prefer that we just cancel the July 3rd one and just have one meeting, which would be the third Wednesday, or do you want to move the schedules back and do like 2nd and 4th that month?
The 4th is Tri-County. The 4th.
Yes, it is.
The 4th Wednesday is
4th is
Tri-County.
Tri-County. So should we maybe just do one that month,
Maybe if we started,
third Wednesday?
yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Leslie, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, guess I'm not looking at the 2nd and 4th anymore. Sure.
So we would just cancel the 3rd.
Okay.
Does that work? It's one less meeting. You just told me.
I know.
I know, that makes,
That makes up
that
for
makes the one meeting longer.
I'll swap
though.
you. I made a work session in exchange for no
Deal.
meeting in July. Okay, so then we'll cancel the July 3rd meeting and just do one that month. All right,
Maybe a big one.
Yeah.
it may be a big one. We're gonna have to come prepared to work if we're gonna stay within our 2-hour time limit.
Yeah.
So get ready,
Okay.
eat your
Might have to
Wheaties.
make an
Anything
exception.
else, any other announcements or things for the good of the order? Anything more, Sandy?
I don't think so.
I have
Oh,
a question, not to interrupt Sandy, but when are you gonna make a final decision on the juvenile court?
So that's a good question. We just got actually new counsel on Wednesday, and there were a number of issues about, one of which I think was sort of came up in Condon a couple of times, was whether I am able as a county judge to just one by one sign court orders and how long, if that could continue indefinitely. And so I'd like to get an answer from counsel on that issue, and also just a second voice saying that our understanding on the permanency of it and all of that kind of thing is accurate. I have a meeting with the attorney that's going to work on that for us on Friday morning, and asked her to try to get us answers by early June. And so my anticipation would be the other thing that I need to have her look into is, if the court decided to go in that route, what does that process look like? Is it a public hearing process? Legally, I don't know what the mechanics are of making a change of that. So we still are looking for legal advice on some of those issues that were raised during the listening session. And then probably at one of the meetings in June, those will probably start to at least come up so that I can get some direction on the commissioners about if they're interested in making a change, if they would like to stay with the current system. Obviously, if they say they want to stay with the current system, then that's that. If they decide that they would like to make a change, then that would trigger whatever process our council tells us we need to go through.
That sounds good to me, because then that gives us time to answer all these questions.
Yeah. It's not
Because
going
my
to be.
name was in the paper.
Yeah. And just so you
Lots of phone
know,
calls.
and people who are listening, we've done these listening sessions, I think, as a way to make sure that we are allowing for plenty of time for people to weigh in, to get as much information as they can, and I think that will continue while we're still gathering some of these facts.
And I hope you encourage people to come to county court. That's why I'm here, to listen,
we
to
do.
learn. There's a lot of stuff going on besides just this you're dealing with. But in some people's mind, this is should be your total focus, and,
That's one of the
So I think
reasons
we
why
need
we
to come and listen and
instituted the
learn.
video too, was so that those people that are at work and aren't able to come have a way to,
Yeah,
to
sure.
see what's going on.
At least that I can let people know that you're not just gonna ram it right down our. So we're
Yeah.
gonna think about this slowly and carefully.
Yeah,
And our phone number is on the website, so
yeah.
I'm happy to have phone conversations. I have had no one call me and talk to me.
Well, she's still lonely.
Well, you know,
I'll
to
call
me,
ya.
you call me plenty.
Sandy's gonna call you once a day now.
So now I'm no one.
She didn't mean it. Did you have one more thing?
I did. So the CIS Wellness Academy, which is sort of a health fair type of a thing, is June 18th and 19th. I've had one person already reach out to me saying that they would like to do it, that they would even go so far as to take vacation to go do it. It's like a Tuesday, Wednesday, I think. Is that something that the court would be okay with a couple? It's free to attend, and CIS will give us up to 2 hotel rooms even. But the question is that something that you would be okay with some employees going to and being paid time versus them having to take vacation to go to it?
And what are they, I heard you say wellness, but what are they gonna cover?
You know, I don't know, because they don't really have a good, like, agenda or anything, because it's basically a big health fair. I've never gone to it.
I haven't gone to it either,
But it's, I mean, it's a huge thing with all kinds of vendors, medical service providers, masseuses, I mean, everything you can think of, all geared towards helping people be healthier in work and out, and it's all geared towards helping people learn to have a healthier lifestyle, and with the idea that that will lower, you know, insurance items later on.
The people that are showing interest in going, does this have anything to do with their position?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really related to any type of, it's not like for, you know, HR people or anything like that. It's just for any employee of, you know, cities and counties. Just a,
part of the wellness program.
right, yeah.
And how much of a wellness program do we have?
If-
This is
if-
it.
If somebody goes to it,
This is
We need
it.
to send somebody?
They have a lot of, CIS has a lot of programs that if you're on their insurance, you can participate in their wellness programs. I find that hardly anyone does, but,
yeah.
I mean, it's good information to have, but it's a lot of, too, that's covered at the conference usually.
Right, yeah, in speaking to Ellen about it, I guess a few years ago when the wellness program first really rolled out, there was a big push and a lot of people from the county did kind of participate, and then it's just died off because there's really nothing local reminding them to keep doing it. So unless somebody really wants to get on the CIS website.
Maybe one of your safety committee members might want to do it, because it would be, if someone's in your safety committee, it would be part of that. Because
Yeah.
one of the things they did, the county did it, but the city, we had too few people, they gave the step county.
Oh, yeah.
And so they had like a competition through the insurance company, but it would definitely be something you could hook with someone on your safety committee, be justified.
Thoughts, direction?
And if we say we're gonna pay them to go, then everybody says
Everybody
they're gonna
go.
go, and then there's nobody in the courthouse? That's my concern.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've only got 2 hotel rooms that I pay for. So, I mean, you could appoint somebody or 2 people to go on behalf of the county with the idea that they're gonna bring that
Bring it back.
information back and share it with everyone. Or you can say, no, you're free to go if you would like to, but the county's not gonna pay you to go to it.
These are the kind of questions I get every day,
Oh,
so
really?
I'm happy for you two to
Just
take
gonna sit
them.
there silent.
Well, I'm gonna sound like the bad guy, but I think it opens up a big deal if we say you could go on your hourly pay. So if they'd like to go, that's great, and have fun.
I'm okay with that.
Sounds like a decision.
Okay.
All right, any other business? We are right on the edge, guys. We've been close. I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting
We have
at
15 more minutes.
2:44.